Hello and welcome back to PECO TV. Today we're announcing the release of the new PECO Streamline Code 80 Flexi Track with concrete sleepers and the Ratio Palisade fencing in N Scale. Both these exciting new products have exquisite detail, as can be seen with the detail on the new Code 80 Flexi Track that includes accurate sleeper profile, pandrol-style rail fastenings and the manufacturer's branding. You can still connect the new Code 80 directly onto Code 55 with the same rail joiners, the SL310 and 311. The second new item we are looking at is the finely detailed Ratio Palisade fencing. So to demonstrate these two new products, I thought it would be best to build a diorama showcasing many of these PECO products that are available in N Scale. As you can see, I've already made a start. I have already laid the Code 55 fine scale wooden sleeper track in the yard area of my diorama, and adjacent on the elevation I'm using the new Code 80 Flexi concrete sleeper track with a couple of turnouts connecting to a branch line with a sand drag. Before we get started, I thought I'd better run through a list of the items I've already used to build this diorama. I've already used the SL310 and 311 rail joiners when joining up the track, and the SL306F wooden sleepers to fill in the gaps between the lengths of rail in the yard. I've also already installed the NB56F inspection pit. I will also be using the PECO Scenic's ProGrass layering system along with the P-Way ballast and weathering powders and kits. From Ratio, I will be using the concrete trunking and relay boxes. And finally, to complete the yard, I will install the palisade fencing and use the Many Ways lineside train shed unit. Right, let's get started. Once all the track has been laid in position, I begin painting the sides of the rail with coloured paint. I'm using MIG oil-based paints with this handy little applicator brush to assist with doing this. Once I've painted all the rails in both the yard and the main line, I then use the Vallejo textured earth-coloured paint to cover the rest of the baseboards. Once all the paint's dry, I start off with the first of two ballasts I'm going to be using. To start off, I'm using the fine grade weathered brown ballast on my main line. I apply using a teaspoon to create the desired look, being careful not to put too much on at any one time. I also tap the back of the teaspoon on the rail to make sure the ballast bounces into the desired positions off the top of the sleepers. Then I repeat this process in the yard using the fine grade weathered grey ballast. I also use a soft brush to tidy up the stray ballast, giving a nice tidy ballast shoulder. Once I've laid all the ballast, I then spray with water. And using a mixture of 50-50 watered down PVA glue, I use a pipette to apply the PVA solution literally all over the track and ballast. Again, I must mention taking care when applying glue and ballast around turnouts, making sure you keep the mechanism clear of any debris or glue. Next, I take a sheet of plastic and cut it into sections appropriate to form the hard standing area outside the engine shed. You could use cardboard to achieve the same look and finish. Then I spray paint them with textured grey paint and leave to dry. A little later, I fit them into position and finish off the ballasting around my concrete pad. Then I add the ST8 buffer stops and complete the ballasting. Next I add the concrete trunking along the edge of my main line, and I use more concrete trunking to form the base for the walls for my sand drag. Then I simply add the PS344 fine sand into the sand drag and again cover with watered down PVA glue. Then once all the ballast has dried, I then spread the PSG-10 basing glue all over the diorama in the positions I would like to cover with static grass, and using a paintbrush I spread it all out. Then, using the PSG1 static grass applicator, I then apply the PSG 223 2mm autumn grass as my base colour. Once the glue has had a chance to dry, I then use a hoover and place a pair of old tights over the end, and then hoover up the excess static grass and put it back into the bag, ready to use again. Then it's time to use the weathering powders and track bed weathering kits to create that convincing look for both my main line and my yard. I'm using a mixture of powders to create the desired look. Then I attach these powders to the track bed using hairspray, and then I leave it to dry. Then, using Vallejo light coloured rust wash, I stain the ballast either side of the rails to look like the rust has washed into the ballast to complete the look. Next, I cover the track bed with masking tape before adding a few different blends of static grass, like 2mm winter or patchy, using the PSG 11 layering spray and the new PSG 4 detailer applicator, plus a bit of scatter to give definition to the grass to create that look of dense foliage. Then I use the SL347 dummy point motors and relay boxes on the main line. Then I fix into position the new palisade fencing, separating the main line from the yard. And finally, I fit the Many Ways train shed unit onto the concrete plinth. And then we're all done. A modern depot and yard next to a main line. There are limitless designs and ideas you can develop for your own model railway, and there is no better place to start than with PECO for all your track and scenery needs. So, until the next time, keep those idle hands busy modelling, and we'll be back soon with more how-to films in the future.